Benvenuti alla mostra Al di là delle reti, Beyond the Nets, opere di Tom DiSalvo. The works you will experience are samples from the artistic career that stretched from the early 1970s through 2011. During his career, the Sicilian-born artist painted no less than 310 paintings, many of them as large as 9 by 11 feet, a remarkable attribute that may not be fully appreciated in this virtual format. They are currently distributed among family, friends, and collectors, and exhibited in public spaces throughout North and South America, as well as in Italy. The exhibit includes presentations and oral histories that reveal interesting facts about the artist's life, his talents, and his motivations. Careful observation of each work allows for an appreciation of the manner in which he meticulously interlocked and overlaid images, references, and text, which transformed the paintings from an object into an organic being. In his notebooks, Tom stated that his goal was for the viewer to experience the momentary transformation of the image and text in his works. I believe you'll experience not only this, but also a unique interaction between the visual, textual, and oral elements each time you view a work and read it aloud. My purpose for organizing this exhibit, with the most appreciated collaboration of my colleagues at Broward College, Florida Atlantic University, and the DiSalvo family, is to re-engage the community with Tom DiSalvo's art, honoring his artistic contributions as a South Florida artist rooted in his Sicilian heritage and globally engaged. The name for the exhibit, Al di là delle reti, Beyond the Nets, draws from a quote from Chapter 5 of James Joyce's novel, A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man, which Tom included on the back cover of his Candyskin Chronicles catalog in 1992. I will share the excerpt in its entirety in Italian and in English. Quando un'anima nasce in questo paese, le vengono gettate delle reti per impedire che fugga. Tu mi parli di religione, lingua e nazionalità. Io cercherò di fuggire da quelle reti. And the English equivalent. When the soul is born, it has a slow and dark birth, more mysterious than the birth of the body. When the soul of a man is born in this country, there are nets flung at it to hold it back from flight. You talk to me of nationality, language, religion. I shall try to fly by those nets. Such a title is undoubtedly encompassing of who Tom was and what his passion for art and humanity represented. Through my lens as an Italian-American Studies student, the nets conjure the illusion of the fishing nets tossed into the sea by his Sicilian ancestors, a people sharing the richly woven DNA of their Greek, Spanish, and Norman lineages. He did manage to fly by those nets, emigrating to the United States in 1955 and subsequently experiencing repeated extended visits to his native Bagheria. Joyce's nets are tangibly depicted within the thick raised brushstrokes that resemble the fibrous braids of hemp, at once hiding and revealing the text and images on Tom's canvases, which are further textured by the coastal sands. Through his creative use of language, Tom surpasses these nets too, by substituting and overlapping letters and creating playful puns. The underlying text on so many of his canvases makes a game of language and invites the spectator to engage in an enduring scavenger hunt. Lastly, the soul of Tom DiSalvo flew by those nets, much like the little fish who go back and forth through the mesh while the larger tuna is trapped. His art, his notes, and his legacy, as it has been shared by his family, depict a man who did not subscribe to absolutes. His work was not a distinct tradition of Sicilian or American contemporary art. His faith was not tied exclusively to his Roman Catholic upbringing and his seminarian education. His notebooks attest to the fact that linguistically, he was a citizen of the world. Full pages, margins, covers, scraps, receipts, and even the backsides of menus and coasters form a repository of his poetry, puns, definitions, sketches, outlines, analyses, and quotes from the great works of literature, collected in Italian, English, Sicilian dialect, Latin, Greek, Spanish, and mathematical notation. I did not have the opportunity to know Tom DiSalvo personally, but I am privileged to have access to some of his notebooks and his artwork and discover the soul that traveled al di là delle reti. I would like to close my introduction sharing a note that he wrote in June of 1988. In Tom's words, "It would be wonderful to organize my year such that I could in autumn go back and type and evaluate and categorize and organize the material I've sown in scattered recordings of transitory thoughts, a spiritual and intellectual harvest time. It seems befitting as we are in the midst of harvest time and also celebrating Italian American Heritage Month that we engage in an intellectual harvest as we explore and continue to discover Tom DiSalvo's works in Al di là delle reti, beyond the nets." This exhibit is comprised of 31 works, including pieces from the Candyskin Chronicle, the Americana series, and other works. Several items are accompanied by the transcription of the painted text, which were characteristic of Tom's art from the 1980s onwards. Some works are enhanced by anecdotes shared by the artist's brother and allow for a more personal understanding of these works. There are also 2 presentations embedded within the exhibit: Sagoma and Stencil by Dr. Brian McConnell and Living and Writing in Between by Dr. Emanuele Pettener, both faculty members at Florida Atlantic University in Boca Raton, Florida. Sagoma and Stencil is a commentary on Tom DiSalvo's artistic techniques and the many dimensions that blended the figure and the written word. Living and Writing in Between highlights the art of being and writing from a bicultural perspective. At the conclusion of the exhibit, there is a survey link. We greatly appreciate your feedback and welcome any questions. Di nuovo, grazie di essere venuti a visionare l'arte di Tom DiSalvo, al di là delle reti, beyond the nets.